Last Parsha. Okay, let's have a look and see what we've got. Vezot Habrachah. So we've spoken about this a few times. It's something that Rabbi Moshe has brought up on a few occasions, but Moshe Rabbeinu is going to take the last few moments of his life, he's going to take off to bless the Jewish people. And he's going to bless each shevet, each tribe is going to be blessed, and he's going to do it in a way that's going to show their uniqueness. Each tribe, of course, got its own unique dimension to which is what turns the Jewish people into the Jewish people. So let's see. Vezot Habrachah sheberach Moshe ish Elokim es bnei Yisrael lifnei Moshe. This is a blessing that Moshe gave to the Jewish people before he died. So first he's going to give a general blessing to everybody, and then he's going to move into each tribe and let each tribe, know what their strengths are. Vayomer Hashem misinai ba, v'zarach miseir lamoy, hoifia meha paran, v'osa miravavois kodesh, miminoi eish dos lamoy. So it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came from Sinai, having shone forth to them from Seir, having appeared from Mount Paran, and then he approached with some of the holy myriads. From his right hand he presented the fiery Torah from them. Moshe Rabbeinu is making he's alluding to something which took place. Before Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to all the nations of the world, and he asked them whether they wanted the Torah or not. Again, I think we spoke about it when we got to Parshat Yisro. We spoke about the idea of what it was he was offering them exactly. But the bottom line was that he came from the place of, he went to Seir, to where Esav is, he went to where Yishmael is, and he offered them the Torah, and they asked what's in it. It's a Gemara in Shabbos, and Daf Peiches, a very famous Gemara. He says over there, they asked what was in it, and he told them, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and they said, we can't stand by that, and they wouldn't take the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu until finally he came to the Jewish people, and the Jewish people said, Naaseh v'nishma. They didn't ask what was in it. They just said, we will do it, and then you can teach us. Afterwards you can teach us, and we can learn all about it, and we can plumb the depths of what it is. So that's what he's alluding to over here. Vayomer Hashem misinai ba, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu came from Sinai, v'zarach miseir lamoy oifir mahaparam, which are the two places. Seir is where the, it's where Bnei Esav, where they hang out, and Ha-Paran is where Bnei Yishmael hang out, v'osa miravois kodesh. And he came with all of his angels came as well. If you take a look at the word on the first word on the fourth line is Eish Das, it's written as one word, but when you come to read it from the Torah, you have to read it as two separate words. Esh Dat. Right? Which is the again, what are we talking about? The fiery Torah that was given to the Jewish people. What is this fiery Torah? So the Zohar says something very fascinating. The Zohar says that the Torah was given with black fire or white fire. Right? There's a concept of the Torah being something fire. Fire is always something very spiritual.
I was going to say, could it be something referencing to something that's alive, something that is still alive, that hasn't gone out yet?
Yeah.
And you could also say that a fire is something that has been, in a sense, passed down, and it hasn't gone out yet. And that's really the tradition of our Torah.
Maybe, yeah. Which means that the idea of the idea of Torah being fire is the idea, first of all, the most obvious idea of bringing light into the world, and heat and warmth, right? But the other idea, of course, being something which is it's a flame. It's something which is living, right? You've ever watched fire, right? It's not sitting just doing nothing. It's always in a state of movement. There's a very beautiful idea actually. The rabbis say that a flame, if you take a look at a flame on a candle, it's always trying to move its way upwards. Watch it. It's like moving like this. And they say, the Apostle King Solomon says that your soul is like a flame, right? Which means that your soul should also always be in a constant state of movement, trying to move up towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the idea of constant flux yes.
Oh, isn't one of the elements fire?
Yeah.
And what does that represent? Same.
Inside of what? I mean, in general, I mean, fire in general represents Torah, right? Torah, it's interesting. Torah, Oira means light, right? It's the idea of bringing something into the world that wasn't there before. From the various elements, what have you got? You've got water, wind,
also you could say this,
earth, and fire, right? Which is interesting that fire is the only one of them that has to be generated, right? Air is there. right? Water is there, the earth is there, right? The only one that needs to be made, brought into existence is fire. And that's the idea of the Torah, that it's up to us. We take the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us and we turn it into what's called, something that's living, something that we can...
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Just like we take oxygen in and bring carbon dioxide out, same thing with fire. It takes oxygen and burns and it turns into carbon dioxide.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay, very good. That's interesting. Yeah, okay, yes.
Well, I'm saying that it's also something similar to, when you have Havdalah and you say Hamavdil.
Yeah.
Something similar to that, because it's a separation that separates us amongst everybody else.
Yeah. It's also, before Shabbos, you light candles as well before Shabbos. It's the idea of bringing something into the world. Now, what's interesting about Kiddush, about lighting Shabbos candles and Havdalah, is that when you light the Shabbos candles, it's us. We're moving into the more spiritual realm of Shabbos to join together with Hashem. When you light the Havdalah candle, what are you doing? You're showing we're leaving Shabbos, right? But we're showing that we have the potential to generate our own light, to produce our own light, to produce our own Torah. Right, it's something very beautiful. The idea of living within the Torah itself. Of course, you've got to be careful. Fire also burns. Right, you get too close to fire, then it's not going to be any use to you whatsoever. It's going to burn. It's going to hurt. It's going to harm. It can do all kinds of damage. Right, and that's something that we have to be careful about. It's interesting that wild animals have an innate fear of fire. They won't go near the stuff. Domestic animals, so they'll sit by the fire and warm themselves up. But I assume that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu gave them fur coats, right? Because if they don't go near the fire, then they can't get any benefit from fire. We, human beings, we can get a lot of benefit from fire. In fact, most of what we have requires fire. And if you look around the room right now, all the bits and pieces of the furniture, even the flooring, was made with the help of fire. But all of us, at some point or another, I'm sure, have burnt ourselves with fire as well, right? Because it comes with the territory. Which, if you're going to use fire, then you need to know that fire is dangerous and you've got to be careful with it. And sometimes it won't work. Sometimes, something will happen, even if it's just taking a tray of cookies out the oven, right, and getting a burn, or whether it's something more serious than that. We all know that fire is something that we have to be careful with. The Torah is analogous to fire, which means that Torah is something absolutely fantastic. Torah gives us light, it gives us heat, it gives us life, but you've got to be careful with it.
According to Rashi, God presented the Torah and made a display of fire and lightning. And that's
at Har Sinai, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why he's saying the fiery Torah.
Yeah. But it's not, you see, what the Torah is alluding to over here is it wasn't just then.
Yeah.
It's not just that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Sinai and he gave the Torah and there was this fire and sounds and light and everything at that point, but the Torah is always generating that sense of light.
It's weird because I feel Devarim is the one which... There's a concept which is that Torah is actually alive. Torah is in our daily life, and even though we think it's just words on a page, it actually affects us. I only felt this was Devarim.
Oh, interesting. You know what? In Mitzvah Hashem, when we start learning Sefer Bereshis, so you'll see how so much of Sefer Bereshis is applicable to us. You have to learn how to pull out the lessons that are there, that are very, very applicable for us, right? Yeah, but they're hidden inside of the stories that we imagine. Okay, it's very interesting and it's a little bit of history to understand where the Jewish people come from, but, it doesn't really impact on me, but it really does. But we have to, work our way through it and work out where they are in order to be able to get those lessons. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll get there, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like a week's portion is so related to whatever's happening in the world.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
So that's why it's like a living Torah.
Yeah, it's really something fascinating that how these things seem to fit together and yeah. Verse number 3. Af chovev amim kol kedoshav biyadecha. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved the tribes greatly, and all the holy ones are in his hand. Vehem tuku l'raglecha yisa midabrotecha. Right, and they planted themselves at your feet, bearing your utterances. Now, it's something very interesting over here. It's very flowery language, but really what is Moshe Rabbeinu saying? That the Jewish people subjugated themselves to God.
What does that mean?
That we became his servants. We do his bidding. Right? Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu showers us with love, and we serve him.
Wow. Because that's like Yom Kippur. So we say on Yom, what's that thing that came out to hit him from King David? We say on Yom Kippur the whole time. Ani whatever it is. Ani Lido.
Oh, Ani Ladodi V'Dodi.
That's it.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And you know what? The emphasis is like this: the whole of Rosh Hashanah is built around coronating HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right?
Yeah.
Turning God into the king. And the inyan of being a king is what?
That he controls your life.
He controls, right? He leads. You've got to do what he wants you to do, right? And true kingship is something which brooks no disagreement. You can't disagree with the king.
You can challenge him.
Well,
you cannot believe in him at times.
If the king is strong, then you can't really challenge him either, because by challenging, what are you doing? You're putting your life on the line. A mortal king.
Well, okay, fine. But then you're saying if you refer to king as God as king, then it's not good to question him. Because then if you question him, you're challenging him.
I don't know. I think it's two different things, actually. I'm not sure. I think it's got a lot to do with how you question what you're questioning. Which means it's perfectly okay for us to question God's ways here in the world. It really is. I say quite the opposite. I'm sure I must have mentioned this a few times, but I think that if people don't question the way that God runs this world, then there's something wrong with you.
It's sad. Yeah.
It's like there's something missing in your thought process. You know, things happen to us on an individual level. They happen to us on a national level. They even happen on an international level.
But if that
right?
question gets in the way of your prayer.
Oh, that's a good question, right? What do you do then?
Yeah.
So I tell you, I once heard the most beautiful idea. You know, at the end of davening, we say En Kelokenu, right? Now in Chutz La'aretz, over here they don't normally sing it, but in Chutz La'aretz they do. And everyone gets very enthusiastic about it because it means that there's going to be Kiddush very soon, right? That's something to be happy about.
I normally sang it.
But if you, I don't know, it's like a quintessential Jewish prayer, Ein Kelokenu. Have you ever stopped to think what you're saying? You're saying like this: Ein Kelokenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kamalkenu, Ein Kamoshenu. There's no one like God, right? And then you say, Mi Kelokenu, who's like God? Is that a Jewish prayer or what? Huh? There's no one like God. Who's like God? Right? Ein Kamalkenu, there's no one like our king. Mi Kamalkenu, who's like our king?
Because we're saying that there's nobody else like you.
Yeah, but we're saying
so really, if you think, oh, hold on a second. If you think about it, right, it really ought to be the other way around. No, you should say Mi Kelokenu, Ein Kelokenu, right? It should be question, answer. Mi Kamalkenu, who's like our king? Ein Kamalkenu, there is no one like our king.
Because no.
So one of the explanations is that you're saying it's a rhetorical thing, right?
Not only that, if I say, it's a type of question that you ask. For example, if I say to myself, I wake up one morning and say, do you know what? Why should I believe in you, God? Evidently that's going to get involved in my prayer.
Yeah.
Evidently that's going to stop me from being able to fill in on a daily basis.
Very good, right?
But if I say to myself, I don't understand a certain aspect of the way that you work your world, and you use that question to enforce it in your davening, surely that...
Good, very good. Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld used to say like this. It's much the same thing as you're saying. He would say like this.
That's why I call myself Rav Yosef Chaim.
Oh yeah, good. Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, he says like this, that you can ask any question that you want. There really is no greater heretical question than to ask Mi Kelokenu, who is like God. I mean, that's about as heretical as you can get, right? You know, we believe that God is we believe in monotheism, right? God is omnipotent, there is only one God. So what do you mean Mi Kelokenu? What are you talking? What are you asking? So Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says that it's permissible to ask any question, even that, so long as it's prefaced by Ein Kelokenu. So long as you know that there is no one like God, then you can have your doubts, and you can have your questions, and you can probe, so long as you understand that ultimately, Ein Kelokenu, there's no one like God. So hold on a second, I want to take your example and take it a step further, right? Which means that somebody wakes up in the morning and he's got all kinds of question marks about God. So what is going to get him to put on his tefillin that morning? What is going to get him to pray to God that morning? The fact that he knows That Ein Kelokeinu, even with all of my doubts and even with all of my questions, I know that there is no one like God.
Okay, so but you're putting it. Sorry to go on the tangent, but you're putting it in very easy ways. Let's say I'm a kid, right? I'm 16 years old. This happened to me. My story is that I was 16. I was not religious between the age of 11 and 16. My dad turned religious before, and then it got very intense, etc. So I said, no, I don't want to do that. At the age of 16, I went to Poland for the first time, and I saw the gas chambers, and I saw Auschwitz. And at that point in time, how can you not question him?
For sure, you're 100% right.
But how can you use that question then to improve your faith?
Because, first of all, we went through 2 blocks of curses that God promised the Jewish people were going to happen to them if they don't do what they're supposed to do.
They don't keep the Torah
Right?
and all that.
Historically, just before the Second World War, the rate of assimilation was rampant. In Germany, they say that 98% of German Jewry was assimilated.
Wow.
Right? In Poland, which had the largest Jewish community in the world at the time, it had, I don't know, I can't remember, 3.5 million Jews or something. In Poland, 80% of Polish Jewry was assimilated. Right? All of those wonderful stories that you hear about what was going on in the shtetls and those little towns, they're all very true, right? The people were from over there. But most of the Jews lived in the large cities, like Warsaw, and in those places there was a huge amounts of assimilation.
I understand what you're saying with this, but how can you say it? How can you say that we caused the Holocaust to happen? Because we didn't cause it.
I don't understand. Who do you think caused that?
Hitler.
If that's what you think, then something's not right here. What was Hitler is the vehicle, the tool that God used in order to bring this down into the world. Where did the power come to allow what happened happen?
Free will.
Free will of the Jewish people. That preceded the free will of Hitler.
But you're saying that when Hitler was created, he was created and God said to him, you are going to kill 6 million Jews.
No.
Or however many.
No. Hitler also used his free will to be able to do what he did. And for that, he'll be held 1,000% accountable. But where did the ability for him to wreak the kind of damage that he did, where did that come from? From the free will of the Jewish people to ignore God. There's no,
Definitely, like you said, the curses.
There's
if you don't follow
there's no games over here. Really, there isn't.
And some of them are horrible.
I hate to make this sound so simplistic. I really do, but that's what it comes down to. This isn't. People want to know where was God during the Holocaust. I think the real question is
where was man?
Aside from that, where was man? But I think the real question, from a theological viewpoint, is how could God not have let that happen? Look what was going on to the Jewish communities. Look what was happening. It was something absolutely terrible what was going on. How much longer could it go on? The Meshech Chochmah, who is the Or Sameach, right? This wonderful institution is named after the book that Rav Meir Simcha from Dvinsk wrote on the Rambam called the Or Sameach, but he also wrote a commentary on the Chumash called the Meshech Chochmah, and he writes over there the most incredible thing. He wrote it in 1929.
Right before.
He wrote in the commentary on the curses. He writes, "I see storm clouds growing above Berlin, because Berlin was the very epicenter of the Enlightenment movement. Berlin was a place where all the new concepts in the Enlightenment of not needing, we don't need Jerusalem anymore, we don't need Israel." Says the Meshech Chochmah, "I see storm clouds growing on top of Berlin," right? Because it's inconceivable that things can continue like that for much longer. Yeah, I agree.
Incredible.
I think you said.
I agree.
Once said something that I have to tell somebody. That is a bracha that we're all spread all over.
The Gemara said the bracha that Jewish people are spread out all over the world, because when you've got something as awful and as terrible as the Holocaust taking place, where a third of the Jewish people were wiped out, but there are pockets of Jews everywhere. Imagine if all the Jews would have been over there. Imagine what would have happened then.
Not only that, surely we were also denying the signs that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when Hitler came to power, Why didn't we all at that point leave the country before he came to power?
Good. You know what? Our problem is that we're looking at this. We've got 2020 hindsight. We know what happened. So you know that after Kristallnacht, about 90,000 Jews left Germany after Kristallnacht. But for 9 months, the Nazis couldn't do anything. They didn't have enough power within their parliament. They didn't have enough power to legislate what they wanted to legislate. So things were quiet. So tens and thousands of Jews came back.
This is like what's happening now.
But you understand. If we would have been living then, we probably would have done exactly the same thing, because your home is there, your business is there, your culture is there, right? And so fine, Kristallnacht is not, that's something which happened throughout Jewish history. There's always been moments where things have been happening to the Jews. So they thought to themselves, okay, finished, it's over. We can go home now. We can go back.
The famous saying of some of the Jews that they use it also as the Germans. What was that again? I'm sorry. Deutschland über alles.
Yeah, I mean that was their national anthem.
Yeah, but the Jews.
They also felt that.
Picked that up, and that was.
The Reformed German Jews said that Berlin is our Jerusalem.
Yeah, that's it. They don't need it. We're done. We don't need Israel. We don't need God. Right? We've got our lives here, over here. This is all we need. We don't need anything else.
I think for if someone has a hard time understanding this concept that Hashem is truly in charge and it came from our own issues, the curse. I feel like a good way of understanding is that when Jews try to be like other people, take away their kedusha and become like other people,
No.
then others are just like, you're supposed to be different.
Oh,
why are you acting like
very good. The other nations of the world, they know that we're supposed to be a light unto the nations. They know that.
Even if they don't know it, it's
somewhere inside of them. They know that, right? It's a part of their. You're right. They don't. Maybe they don't know it consciously, but they understand that the Jewish people are supposed to be different, and when the Jewish people don't behave differently, then it bothers them.
Why are you acting like
Rav Chaim Volozhiner, right, the foremost student of the Vilna Gaon, had a very, very sharp statement. He used to say like this. He says the Jews are supposed to make Kiddush. What does Kiddush mean? To sanctify ourselves. We're supposed to be holy, right? The word Kiddush, lekadesh, really means to separate, which means that we're supposed to be separate from the other nations of the world. Says Rav Chaim Volozhiner, the Jews are supposed to make Kiddush. He says if they don't make Kiddush, the non-Jews will make Havdalah. Havdalah is involuntary separation. We don't want Shabbos to end, right? We'd like it to be Shabbos all week long. I mean, I would, because I wouldn't have to come here, right? That would be great. But
I wouldn't, because then I wouldn't see you.
You hear? It's the most incredible thing. What's he said? It's exactly what you were saying. That's what he's saying, right? That the non-Jews know that we're supposed to be different, and if we try to be like them, they'll remind us. They'll make Havdalah. They'll make the separation. And if it's being done by them, then it's going to come together with ghettos, and it's going to come together with pogroms, and it's going to come together with inquisitions. That's how it's going to come.
So then why aren't there anything? Why is there nothing like that now?
Where?
In anywhere.
I don't know,
Within
but you want to know something? I think we have what to be concerned about.
Yes, so do I.
Historically, the only thing that we've got going now, which never really existed before, is the Tshuva movement.
The what movement?
The Baal Tshuva movement, which is something which is rippling out all over the Jewish world, all over the place.
It's only been the last 3 years, really, hasn't it? Really?
No, it's been going for a few decades already. But the concept, back in Germany, back in Eastern Europe, there was no Baal Tshuva concept. There was it didn't exist. Either you were frum or you weren't, and if you weren't, then that was it. Now what we've got is we've got a generation of people who are completely detached. They don't know anything about themselves.
Very interesting, because on Pesach, the 4 sons. There was a book, I can't remember which one it was, and it goes through every 4 sons. And it says, this is this generation, this is this generation.
Yeah, it's a
we are known as a silent generation, this generation.
That's the Malbim. She'eni Yideli Shalom. That's why there's no 5th generation, because either you bring them back to where they're supposed to be, which is the first son, the Chacham, right? The wise son, or that's it, it's gone, finished. Jewish history is absolutely cyclical. It just goes round in cycles over and over and over again. There's no, it's impossible to miss it. It really is. And it's up to us, and we don't read the signs and we don't read the signals. And right now, assimilation in the Jewish world is horrible, absolutely horrible, right? Here, simple math, right? After the Second World War, there were 18 million Jews before the Second World War began. After the Second World War, there were 12. Right? Hitler managed to destroy a third of the world Jewish population. Right? We're now 60 years after the war, 70 years after the war. How many Jews are there in the world? The world Jewish, the global Jewish population is hovering around 12 million Jews. Maybe 13. Depends on how liberal you are in counting, right? How inventive your accounting system is. But let's just say, for argument's sake, there are 12 million Jews, right? There were 12 million Jews after the Second World War, and there are 12 million. We're killing ourselves. Extrapolate 12 million from 70 years ago. Where are we supposed to be by now? 20 million? Where are we?
You're right, it's mad.
We're destroying ourselves.
But it does, if you only bring up Hitler, our history goes way back.
Oh gosh, there've been Hitlers in every generation.
Stalin.
We say every Passover.
Yeah, b'chol dov ador, in every generation they're trying. You know what it says over there? It's interesting. You know what Chazal say? B'chol dov ador, in every generation they're trying to wipe us out. So it's interesting that the sages say that sometimes it's obvious, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we may go through a generation and think that we got through it. Nobody. There weren't any Hitlers in that generation. And the Chazal, they're saying yes, there were. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu just thwarted their attempts without it ever coming to light. Which means that phrase that we read in the Haggadah, Shebechol Dov Ador Omdim Aleinu, in every generation somebody's standing there trying to wipe us out. That's something that we need to take that absolutely seriously.
How can you prove to someone that God actually exists?
It depends what you call proof. I can't point at anything and say this is God. But there's no tangible proof of God's existence. If you want proof, you've got to look around. Just look around at the physical world that we live in. Look at the way that look at the way that the world exists. Everybody wants to. If you don't want to believe in God, so where did we come from? So some schizophrenic cell at some point split, right? And that's where all life forms come from. Which is great. I mean, isn't that terrific? The human body is something absolutely extraordinary, really extraordinary. The human eye, right? Which is something, Baruch Hashem, it gives us sight. It's something which is, there's so much detail contained inside of your eye. There is so many things in there, even though it's a tiny little thing, right? You know how many different kinds of eyes there are? In the animal world, right? There are different eyes for different animals because they need their eyes for different things. So some animals have their eyes on the top of their heads because that's where they need them in order to look for predators, right? Some I'm using the word animal generically over here for anything that's not insect life as well. Some insects have eyes in their legs because that's where they need them. Some animals, crocodiles. Who lives in the water? Alligators or alligators? No, I can't remember. One of them has a special film that goes over their eyes, so that they can see underwater. They don't have any problem seeing underwater. It's like they've got built-in goggles, right? No, we have eyes where we blink the whole time in order to keep our eyes fresh and to right? I mean, all of this just happened by chance, right? You people don't realize how lucky you are that you didn't end up with some kind of random, an eye stuck on the top of your head somewhere.
Unicorn.
Right? Okay, man, where would you put your kippah if you had an eye? If your eyes were up here, where would you put your kippah? You wouldn't be able to see anything because, right?
You put a hole in.
Yeah, you understand? It's something extraordinary. And what's true about your eyes is true about anything. Take a piece of bone, which is really a very unexciting part of your body, right? Your bone it's got everything it contains inside of your marrow, right? Is everything's there. All your DNA is built inside over there. It's all there. It's the body is the most astonishing mechanism. And yet it all just came about by chance. It really did. Yeah. The fact that the sun is exactly the distance that it needs to be from the earth, because if it was closer we would burn up, and if it was further away we would freeze. Of course, it's just one of those, it happens all the time, right? One of those random things.
It's so interesting. I've heard this, I don't know what the source is, I have no idea, but they say the design of this watch, how's this organized? How did this came to be?
Yeah.
Perfectly organized.
Yeah, just happened. It's random.
They're just random? Like,
there's a very famous story they tell. Isaac Newton, who you may be familiar with, because he didn't discover gravity. It was there the whole time, actually. Right. He just happened to sit under a tree at the wrong time. But Isaac Newton had he was a frum Christian, and he had on his desk a beautiful model of the planets made out of brass. And it was something very beautiful, and it had a central pole, and each planet was coming out of the pole on an arm, and you could move them around according to whatever they understood in those days, according to their orbits. And an atheist friend of his once came to visit him and looked at this thing, which was very beautiful, and he says to him, "Wow," he says, "where did you get that? Who made it?" So Isaac Newton looked at him and he says, "Nobody, it just fell into place." So he says to him, "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know it's not true. Who made it?" So Isaac Newton looked at him and he says, "Are you listening to what you're saying? This little series of brass balls over here had to be created by somebody, otherwise it could not come into existence. But the original, who created that?" You don't want to believe, don't believe. But sometimes I think the people who don't believe are trying harder than we are.
Absolutely.
Halavai, we should put in as much effort in believing as they do, right? And then maybe we would actually get somewhere.
Because it makes sense and it clicks. It's just, there's no overthinking. Does it make sense? But it's fascinating how we're human. Whereas,
speak for yourself.
Because if you think about it, our DNA is only composed of 4 molecules, right?
That's true.
4 molecules.
I'm a science guy.
That insect, the insect, and us, 4 molecules.
Yeah.
It's just a sequence that we have that
It's
makes
incredible.
protein.
It's incredible.
Came out to be human, and we have an understanding.
They mapped the genome, right? And they came to the conclusion, I don't remember the exact figure, but 99.98% of all human beings share exactly the same genome, the whole thing, right? And it doesn't matter what color skin you've got, and it doesn't matter where you live, and it doesn't matter nothing, right? And the scientific world was amazed. How we're all so similar. I don't see anything amazing about that at all. It's the 0.02% that makes every person unique, right? That's the soul that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you. Everything else, if we didn't have that, we would just be a bunch of animals, right? We would just be good. So some animals are bigger, some are smaller, some are furrier, some are less furry. What difference does it make? We would just be another species of animal. That's all we would be.
That's a brilliant way to answer the question, actually. Now, how can you prove that God exists?
But you've got to open your eyes, right? You've got to look. That's what it comes down to.
Sorry about the tangent, as usual.
That's fine, really, it's fine. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu never repeats things, miracles, he never repeats them again. There's always going to be a difference, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is unique.
What about twins?
Twins also, even identical twins are not identical. I've got nephews that are identical twins. It's for sure. They call them identical twins because they really, at first glance, they look the same. They're 17 years old now, and they're mummish. I mean, at first glance you look, you don't know which one is which. But of course they're different, and they have different fingerprints, right? And it's amazing. When I was in school, there was one set of identical twins in my year, And there was one year, I'll never forget this, the Gemara Rebbe never realized there was two of them. They would switch off. One would come one day, one would come the other day. The Gemara Rebbe never realized there was supposed to be two of them. And they had a bull. I wanted to be one of six, actually. I would have thought being sextuple, then I could have just not gone to school at all, actually. That would have been great. Wow. What's Pshat? It's interesting, from the most mundane to the most complicated, everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is different. Snowflakes, right? The makeup of every snowflake is different. So in science they'll explain because of the molecules and the way that it freezes. But in religion, what are we saying? Because every single thing Hashem does is unique. From the snowflakes to a human being with his fingerprints. How many? There are 7 billion people in the world. That means there are 70 billion fingerprints in the world. You don't even have the same fingerprints on each finger. Each finger's got its own set of fingerprints.
What about hands?
Here, so that's a pshat. We may all look the same, but if you take your hand and you take my hand and we analyze them, you'll see there are plenty of differences over here. It's true, the basics are the same.
Fingerprint will be it. That's it.
Even beyond fingerprints, right? So some people have shorter fingers, some people have longer fingers, some people have wider fingers, some people have thinner fingers, right? What you'll find is that hands are they're probably very, you can identify somebody through their hands, right? Faces, every single's face is different. Every single person's face is different, and yet we all share the same face. So we've all got two eyes, and we've all got two ears, and we've all got one mouth, and we've all got one nose with two nostrils, right? But not one person's got the same face as the other.
I think another thing is that when people can't process or don't want to believe in God, is because they have a wrong idea of what God is. They think of a separate entity or something, or a person, or some wrong
maybe.
idea. But this nature, everything, is a part of God.
I think the emphasis, if you ask me, I think the vast majority of people don't want to believe in God because believing in God is obligatory.
Not only that, it's believing in something that is hard in them.
Yeah, okay, but I think we're saying the same thing, which means believing in something which is higher than you means that you need to do what they want you to do.
Well, you have to do it. That's why they make
it's a problem, right? Believing in God is a problem, because if you believe in God, then you really ought to do what God wants you to do, no? And for most people, they're smart enough to understand that they don't want to do that. That's too much for them. Which means most people, even atheists, most atheists are atheists of convenience. There are a few people that believe in the religion of atheism. There really are. I'm using the words deliberately, right? Rav Gifter, the late Rosh Hashiva in Tells, Chicago, so he used to say like this. He used to say the atheists also believe in God. They just believe their God. Because when you define what it is that you're going to believe in and what you're not going to believe in, what are you doing? You're playing God. Yeah. Right? That's food for thought. I don't know. It's an interesting idea.
Very interesting.
Torah tziva lanu Moshe, verse number 4. Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Morashal Kilas Yaakov. So Torah tziva lanu Moshe. There's a very cute vort in the Gemara. The Gemara is not very big on cute vorts. You should know that. The Gemara normally teaches us things that are incredibly deep, and we need to think about them. It's very rare that you get something. I'm telling you, you'll hear it in a minute, and you'll see that it's cute. It's deep. There's no doubt about it. But the rabbis say like this: what is the numerical value of Torah? The numerical value of Torah is 611. How many mitzvahs are there? 613. Two of the first two of the Ten Commandments we received from who? From God. All the rest, Moshe told them over because the Jewish people couldn't take it anymore. So it says the Gemara like this: Torah tzivalanu Moshe. Who brought us the Torah? Moshe. It's not just talking about the Torah in its totality, but it's also talking about the 611 mitzvahs that Moshe gave us. That's a gematria, that's a numerical value of the word Torah. Torah tzivalanu Moshe. Moirasha kilas Yaakov. What is a moirasha? How does Rabbi Scroll translates moirasha as what?
Heritage.
A heritage. Okay, what's a heritage? Here, look.
Possession of Israel.
Very good. Here, look at Rabbi Scroll's footnote. Rav Mordechai Gifter. explains the difference between a nachla, which is an inheritance, and a morasha, which is a heritage. An inheritance belongs to the heirs, which means you get a nachla, you can do what you want with it. So your parents have been passing down from generation to generation a priceless Ming vase, right? And if you want, you can sling it out the window, you can sell it on eBay, you can hold on to it, you can do what you want, it's yours, no one can tell you what to do with it. A heritage is something which is given to you in trust. It's given to you from the generation before. So let's say your parents, this Ming vase, they know you, right? And they know that you're going to do something wrong, that you won't hold on to it. So they don't give it to you outright. They give it to you in trust as a morasha. You hear the difference, right? Which means that you can have it and you can live with it and you can enjoy it, but it's not something which is yours to dispose of. You've got to hold on to it and you've got to pass it over to the generations that come after you. Torah tzivalanu Moshe moira shakil as Yaakov. That's what the Torah represents. You hear? That it's not ours to get up one day and say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. We're finished, right? No more Torah. Because it wasn't given to us as an inheritance. It was given to us as what? A heritage. What is a heritage? It was passed from the parent to the son, and from the son on to the grandson, and it's going to keep going like that through all of the generations.
What is the Kehilas Yaakov coming in? I still don't understand.
Kehilas Yaakov is the whole of the Jewish people. That's another thing. It's a very important thing. You should know that. Kehilas Yaakov means every Jew is a part of that Torah. It's not just for those people, the Talmidei Chachamim. It's not just for the scholars, right? It's not just for the people who live a Jewish life. Kehilas Yaakov, it's for everybody. It's a morasha, it's a heritage that belongs to absolutely everybody. You hear? It's very...
They call it that way.
As opposed to what?
Where's Yaakov coming in?
Because Yaakov, there's a difference in the Torah between Yisrael and Yaakov. Yaakov is talking about the father, he's like the father of the sons, and Yisrael is the father of the Jewish nation. And over here, this has become, you know what we would say, it's becoming very Hamish over here, right? Very Hamish. That we're Kehilas Yaakov. We're part of the family of the Jewish nation, right? The Torah is ours because we're part of that family. Every single one of us. We'll stop over here, Mitzvah Hashem.